Welcome to From Brick to Click, Related Therapy Services. This is the 6th in the series and the last one. Thank you for those that have participated in the past, and for those that are new, and for those that have gone to every one. We really appreciate you coming. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat. We will have a time at the end for questions as you go. So as we go along at the end, we'll go through those questions. So if you have them, you can put them in as we go, and then we'll be glad to answer those at the end. My name is Janet Courtney. I am a speech-language pathologist. I have been for 26 years, and I've been doing online therapy for 9. I started Lighthouse Therapy 2 years ago, and I am so happy that I am able to provide this information for you, and hopefully you'll find it to be helpful. So with that said, let's get started. I'm going to turn myself off. Yeah, there we go. And we'll get going. Okay, so first thing, and I'm sure many of you have seen this. This is from educationweek.org, edweek.org, sorry. And it is just a map of the closures, and 43 states currently have closed for the academic year. And it's just incredible. I mean, look at this map. And I looked at a map from when we first started, and there were a couple, and not everybody had decided. In 6 weeks, this is where we're at. Currently, all schools that are public or have a brick and mortar are closed. And there are approximately 56.6 million students attending K through 12 schools in the United States. And of those, 2.7 million of those students across the US are participating in virtual or online learning. So there are some students that this has really just kind of been a bump in the road for them. But what's interesting to me is that 57% of the students in the US before COVID-19 were using digital learning tools daily in 2019. So we certainly have the tools to be able to do online therapy, online education, and many have jumped right in and been able to do it, and others are struggling. What's interesting that happened this week is, if you see the federal special education law must stay intact during school closures. This was according to Betsy DeVos from the U.S. Department of Education. So what that means is that they're not going to be giving away waivers. That is actually a link. You can link to that article. So IDEA has remained intact, which is protecting our students with disabilities and their rights to services. So that just came out this week. So it'll be interesting to see how online therapy and providing of those compensatory services goes, because it is certainly going to be something that is definitely a burden, but also a right that our special ed students have. So anyway, so let's go on and talk about what services can be and have been delivered online. Obviously, speech-language pathology and speech-language pathologists have been providing online services for quite some time. Occupational therapists, I've talked about this briefly in previous webinars. Using a documentation camera is really helpful. Certainly providing some materials for the students is something that we do. School counselors, school psychologists, licensed social workers, board certified behavioral analysts, BCBAs, and physical therapists all are and have been providing online services through this medium. So what can the online therapists cover? Let's talk about that for a second. Direct therapy, obviously, according to the IEP or the 504, these kids are receiving direct therapy services. Assessments. This is an area that some have claimed that, oh, we can't do assessments online, and we'll get into that a little bit more as the presentation goes, but I wholeheartedly disagree. We certainly have been providing online assessments. Those 2.7 million students that are receiving online school, about 10% of them, like everywhere else, are receiving special education services, being identified online, and receiving therapy services online. and those triennials or three-year reevaluations are being done online. IEPs, obviously, we talked about that last week. IEPs can be done via video conference, can be done via phone. Certainly, they happen every day. Progress reports and case management is also being done online. Now, with IEPs and progress reports, usually that is done through an online IEP management system, just like the schools have for their IEPs. That you can get a username and a password and be able to put that information in just as an on-the-ground or face-to-face therapist can do. Also, comp time. Certainly, we do extended school year, and comp time is definitely something that a lot of people are thinking about and talking about, especially with Betsy DeVos's recent statement. So all of these things can be provided online. So when you're in a session, then the session tools, and we touched on this again briefly, session tools become really important as far as what you can use. Those tools include whiteboards, lots of different things you can do with a whiteboard. Screen sharing, assessments can be done via screen share. Also YouTube videos. Love YouTube videos because you can pause them and annotate using the whiteboard over them and have that access to lots of fun activities that can be done, and they're already made online for you. Interactive games are also another big part. We talked about that again in resources. Apps and digital books. This is one of my favorites. I love books, and having access to digital books is something I certainly use a lot. PDFs are available, PowerPoint, Word documents, flashcards. Flashcards are great because you can do all kinds of different things with flashcards, playing memory games or just, working on a skill drill, playing categorization, all kinds of stuff with flashcards. And then boom cards. Lots of great fun things that are happening. And there's lots of free boom cards out there too, if you're familiar with them. So lots of different tools, lots of different ways you can provide therapy. Now let's talk about online assessments. I mentioned it previously, and I wanted to really talk about what I mean when I'm talking about online assessments. So there are, one of the things that I see with assessments is people are really concerned about standardized scores. And I agree, it's important to have a standardized score, and every state has their number for standardized scores. But the thing that people, I think, are getting stuck with is that standardized scores are not the only way that you can assess a child. And we do it as therapists and as teachers all the time. Diagnostic assessment is something that we've been taught in school. We know how to assess whether or not a child's getting the concept that we're trying to teach them, and whether or not they're getting that sound in therapy, or whether or not they're able to grip that pencil better in occupational therapy, or whatever it happens to be, or balance in OT or in physical therapy. But the thing is that we've gotten so stuck on standardized scores that we forget that that's only a small piece of what we do with assessments. Pearson has opened up all of their online assessments for people to be able to use during this difficult time, and some of them that were not accessible in a digital form have now become accessible, and that's exciting because we can now give every single assessment, a piece of it, online in a digital format. And you can certainly do it via document camera and all of and screen sharing, but you just have to take the fact that I guess I'm really passionate about the fact that I want to make sure that kids are getting assessed. I want to make sure that kids are getting the services they deserve by doing these assessments. So Pearson has it. WPS, we actually at Lighthouse Therapy, we have the Castle 2 online. PAR has all kinds of assessment online and checklists and et cetera, et cetera. Riverside Insights owns the Woodcock-Johnson, and they actually, if you already have access to the Woodcock-Johnson, they've also opened that test up in a digital format. And MHS has a lot of the ADHD materials and the Connors. So I really feel like you really can get a good assessment for a child online through online therapy services. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one. So then the next thing that I wanted to talk about is I've gotten a lot of questions about assistants. What can assistants do? And, you know, this is one of those rules and regulations are specific to states. Can SLPAs be supervised? Can OCODAs, can PTAs be supervised online? And I can't give you an answer like yes they can or no they can. I wish I could say that to you, but I did provide and look up each one of the associations. ASHA, AOTA, APTA has a website specifically that addresses state by state. And it's a PDF in each of these that you can download, and it will tell you, if you look up your state, what the latest is as far as what the states are saying about assistance. There's a whole bunch of information on there about COVID-19 and what their responses to it are. But each one of these specifically has that question and by state. So please feel free to look that up and make sure that you, because I've even seen on Facebook, people have asked this question and gotten one answer from one person and another answer for another person. So I caution you, if you're going to do that, just make sure that you know specifically what your state is saying. So, so you can make sure that you're following what's happening in the law. And it seems like the law is changing every day right now as we go through this. So the next question that I get a lot is, physical therapy. How do we do physical therapy online? I did a survey on what people wanted to hear in the last two webinars. And this was a question I got: how do you do physical therapy online? And physical therapy obviously is much more hands-on than speech therapy is. But video conferencing with that wide-angled lens is one of the things that you can use to really get a picture of the whole child. You can see head to toe as long as they have the camera set well. Demonstration of exercises and techniques is a lot of what I've seen done with physical therapy. Also parent consultation, and then home exercise programs. I ran into a friend of mine who is a physical therapist, and she was like, Janet, I'm having to do online, and I've never done online before. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she said, I'm doing a lot of consultation. I'm sending home a lot of home exercise programs, and I'm doing as much as I can to walk parents through on stretching and things that these kids need, how to get them out of the wheelchair and get them comfortable and in position so that they can do the exercises that they need to do. So, you know, it's happening. People are stepping into it. It has been happening. It's not a new thing like with COVID-19, but it's just more and more physical therapists are having to get online, and it's just definitely not as comfortable for them as it might be for a speech therapist. Not that it's easy, you still have a learning curve, but it can be done to a certain extent. So let's talk about the first online session and what that looks like. So whenever I talk to my staff or whenever I'm mentoring a therapist, I always tell them, I said, your first session isn't going to look like any of your other sessions. And that's because, as you guys know, and as I know, and as educators know, it's really important to get the kids excited about what you're doing. You know, get them comfortable with the platform, get them comfortable with using the features that you want them to use. Now, I say that, but I also say there's little ones, if you don't want them to use a feature, don't teach it to them, because they're smart little cookies. They're probably going to figure some of it out. Some of it I don't even have to teach at all. But if there's something specific, you know, this little guy's going to be scribbling all over the screen. If you teach them how to use that pencil, then that may not be something that you want to teach in that very first session. And then the next thing that I do is I always have some sort of a game. Usually it's a getting to know you game to establish rapport. Find out what they like. Find out what their hot buttons are. Find out what kind of games they play online. And then the next thing that I usually do is I take a bit of a skills inventory based on their goals and their IEP. I slip them in. It's not really therapy at that point, but just getting an idea of a sound inventory for speech, or what specifically they're struggling with in language. And then the last thing, and we all try to do this, is just make it fun. Get them excited about coming back. Get them excited about, yay, that was good. I've had many, many students whose parents were apprehensive about online therapy. And then after that first session, they were like, oh, they're sad if they miss. They don't want to miss. I actually had one student, his dad logged him in on his iPhone in the emergency room because he fell. He was on a chair. He wasn't supposed to be on a chair. He was a little 6-year-old little guy, and he hurt his arm. And he didn't want to miss therapy. So his dad signed in, told me where they were, and I was like, okay, let's read a book. So we read a book until he came in and took him and got an x-ray. Fortunately, his arm wasn't broken, but I just thought that was, when you can get a kid that excited about coming to therapy, you're doing your job. So I was pretty excited about that. So then your second session, let's talk about what that looks like. First thing I always do with my kids is, how are you? How's it going? How's life? What's going on with you? Making sure that they're in a mind frame for therapy, because especially now with all these things that these students are having to live with and do, and parents and outside of their norm, just kind of getting the feel. And that really, depending on the answer to that question, can really change everything that I do, depending on what they say. If they're really having a hard time and they just need to talk, then let's talk about it. Let's give them a minute to just vent so that they can get that off of their shoulders and then move on to the therapy that I have planned for them. I usually have planned 3 to 5 activities, as it says, and I don't get to all of them. I never do. But I at least have those available. Some of them roll over into the next session and I use them the next time. But what that gives me the opportunity to do is gives me the opportunity to switch it up. I can give them a choice. If they're really good at making choices, I give them a choice between activities. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to do this, but then you can choose this between these 2 things, depending on the child. But if something flops, if I have an activity that I really thought they were going to enjoy and it just did not go, I'll stop it in the middle. Like, you know what, this isn't working. Let's go to do something else. And that way you've got that flexibility to try something new. And I always incorporate fun. I always try to incorporate fun into drill work, into difficult tasks, and trying to make sure that they are enjoying what they're doing. And what do I use for me personally? Like I said, I love digital book sites. I use Twain Tribune a lot. It's through the Smithsonian. Epic Books is a really great one that I use. YouTube videos, like I said, with pausing and annotating. Digital therapy books. I have some digital books that I've bought over time and have used those consistently. And then also the whiteboard. Our whiteboard at Lighthouse Therapy has over 4,600 stamps on it. And we also just got the ability to add our own stamps. I had this little guy who, he was autistic and he loved alligators and crocodiles. And I didn't have an alligator or crocodile stamp. So I got one thinking it was an alligator and it was crocodile. And he let me know it was crocodile. But every single time he came to therapy and every single time we played a game, that's the stamp he used. And it was his own personal stamp. I don't think any of the other kids I had used it. But what a great thing to have that ability to offer him that particular kind of personal token during his therapy session. So that's me. That's what I use. That's what my sessions look like. And, therapy is therapy. You just have to know what your tools are, get comfortable with them, and use them, and get comfortable with a few. Don't feel like you have to take everything on right away. Get comfortable with what you know, get comfortable with the tools that you're using, and then try a new one, add a new tool, and then get comfortable with that one. And then when you're comfortable with that one, add another tool. You don't get to be perfect, and you'll never be perfect, but you don't get to be as proficient in 5 weeks as you're going to be in 5 years. So. All right. Lastly, I want to talk to you about is the compensatory services that we talked about. How many students are missing sessions right now? They haven't gotten all of their sessions because their brick and mortar school is closed. How long do you think it'll take before their services were up and running online? Is there a gap in services? We know there has been, right? How many schools were able to adapt easily to online services? Not as many as wanted to. I know that the schools have been working really hard to get to that point, but I also read an article the other day that makes me sad, is some of them are just giving up. They're just like, it's not working, we're not doing it. And so those kids, what's happening with those kids? How many of your therapists that you have at that school are going to want to do summer work? They're used to not having to work in the summers. I know some of them will, and some of them just, they have plans, they'll be gone. And are you going to have enough coverage? And then finally, what is the plan for all those compensatory sessions that are piling up? There's certainly, online therapy is certainly an option, and you have options for that. So let's talk about how Lighthouse Therapy can help with that. Obviously, the first thing you're going to want to do is contact us. Schedule a consultation. We can certainly talk to you about your needs. We are a company that if you need one student covered, we will cover one student. That's just our philosophy. We're not here to oversell something. We just want to help. And that's why I've done this series for 6 weeks, because I really want to help. I want people to feel like they have a place to come to get the services that they need, and that the therapists that work for them are taken care of as well. And once you've scheduled that consultation and we've talked about what your needs are, then what we'll do is we'll send you a proposal. So you'll receive a proposal via email, whatever, however you prefer to have it. And then once you receive that proposal and it looks like something that will work for you, then we will just sign an agreement plan with you and get services started. And we have the ability to help you get that set up, make sure that everything runs smoothly. We have online tech support. So it's not hard to do. It's just a matter of reaching out and getting it started. And our commitment then to you is that we're, like I said, you're only going to be charged based on the students' needs. We're not a company, like I said, we just want to help. So 1 kid, 20 students, 5 students, 100 students, whatever you need, that's where we're going to be. We try to make it less of a strain on the school's budget. There's going to be a strain on the school's budget no matter what at this point, but I do know they're trying to open up funds and get more funds available to schools based on the craziness of COVID-19. Our contracts are also cancelable within 30 days. So if something doesn't work out and you're not locked into 90 days or a year or whatever. Again, I said it before, I'll say it again, no minimum number of students are required. We guarantee that you'll love your therapist, and you'll receive quality services that are equal to face-to-face services. So that's what we do. That's our goal. That's what we want to do. We want to be, oh, there you go. I did not mute my phone. I apologize. I usually put it on Do Not Disturb, and I did not today. There you go. All right. So with that said, then let's go and answer any questions. I see one was in here. Pearson isn't actually free, is it? Not, that was our first question. It isn't free, but it is free right now. Pearson has opened up all of their Q Global accounts. It's a temporary thing through June 30th. And if you don't have a Q Global account, they will walk you through how to get a Q Global account. But during this time, you can get any of their assessments and the digital materials for free. So does anybody else have any questions about what we've talked about today? I'll be glad to answer them as we go. But you can't access this. You can access it. They actually have training. Q Global Pearson actually has training on how to get access to Q Global and how to get access to those assessments. And if you have questions about that, please reach out to me after the webinar. I'll be glad to walk you through it and show you how to do that. I've been using Q Global for years. So, and then while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'd like to maybe go through the rest of the slides. We have a slide for scheduling a consultation. So if you want to talk about services that your school may need, or about something that I've talked about specifically here, or what I use for a particular activity, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy. I've been doing online therapy for 9 years. So I'd love to share my knowledge. I love to help people. It's just what I do. So if you need something, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll be glad to help you. And then we also have a slide for all of the other resources that we've done through Brick to Click. So those are all available. I had someone ask me today on LinkedIn, how do I get to your to your previous recordings? And these are all on YouTube. We have Lighthouse Online on YouTube specifically. So if you want to see something that we've done before, and if I specifically mentioned a resource that you want that is in one of these, I will be happy to send it out to you. You just have to shoot me an email and let me know. My emails have been on every single one of the slides that we've done. So, and then finally, I wanted to let people know that since this has been so successful, we've decided that we're going to do a 3-part series this summer on where do we go from here. Talking again about the compensatory services after COVID-19, making sure that people understand what the law says, and as we go through and we're navigating and the law is changing and things are shifting, making sure that people get answers and resources to the questions that they have. Educational considerations after COVID-19 is going to be our second one. And then the new normal. We all know that therapy and education and the world of education is not going to be the same. So what will it look like in the fall when kids come back to school, and kind of walking through what we think is what our new normal is going to be like. So with that, I think we're done. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Thank you for making this such a success, and I just wish you all the best. I don't think we have any other new questions, so I just want to make sure that if anybody has any questions, know that you can reach out to me, and take care.